Welcome back to Some Kind of Fun. I'm here with my friend Sean McPherson. Sean, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me down. It's nice to see you not at the Y, where I usually see you like 4 times a week.
Exactly. Sweating over different machines. Usually me swearing. It's always fun. Always fun. So let's start with you getting into the music scene. Now, you began Heiruspecs back in high school?
1997, which was my junior year at St. Paul Central.
Okay.
And was also, I only moved to Minnesota in 10th grade. So I had met Felix, the rapper in Heiruspecs, the year before. And we had spent kind of a year BSing, but not really playing. And then we both kind of came back to his senior year and my junior year with this enthusiasm. Like, let's really make a band, find a name, and go for it. And go for it we have been for close to 30 years. So
that is great.
Yeah.
That is great. And so starting in high school, how does that work? How do you get bar gigs in high school? Or don't you? Do you just play school gigs?
You get bar gigs. I think there's that whole idea of dress for the job you want, not the job you have.
Okay.
So if you start delivering the goods at a nightclub level at the coffee shop, the nightclub's going to call you. And if you start delivering at the theater level at the nightclub, the theater's going to call you. And for us, that came with playing in our high school a couple times and having people go, this is really good. And we didn't have songs. I just knew a couple bass lines, drummer knew a couple drum parts, and we were just playing. And then Felix and a young rapper named Lee Perry, who didn't stay with the group, were freestyling over it. And people were like, this is fun. This is cool. So we played our first not at St. Paul Central gig at Cahoot's Coffee Shop, which is now Luminary Coffee Shop, where I just had coffee a matter of hours ago.
Nice.
And started playing there. And then did you ever cross paths with Jen Downham from Groove Garden and from KFAI?
Name sounds familiar.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she is, and particularly was, a really important hub for sort of funky, forward-thinking music from 1992 to maybe 2005 or something like that in this town. She had a show on KFAI, which I think was called The Groove Garden. She had Groove Garden Records, and they had Freeloaded Wednesdays at the front, and they had something at the 400 bar, and they would do the Caboose every couple weeks. They'd do First Ave once a year. And they had to fill with 2 or 3 funky groups. And so she brought us into the 400 bar.
Okay.
We're all juniors or seniors in high school or sophomores in high school. And it was like a man who would be my boss 6 or 7 years later, Bob, was like, I know you're supposed to play last. You guys are playing first because we're going to kick you out right after you're done. He was nice about it, but you're going to get kicked out. And so it was really Jen Downham, the folks from Rhymesayers, who helped us establish ourselves earlier than we otherwise would have in like 21 plus worlds.
Right.
So.
Wow. And 30 years later, still at it.
Yeah, not the same all ages draw we once were. But, they started being like, "And do you want to do an all ages show?" And I was like, "For why?" Like, I would love to do it, but
exactly. That might not be your current demographic.
That's right.
All right. And so, staying in the music side, then you moved into radio at a certain point. I mean, I think I first heard you doing Radio Free Current.
Yep.
So help us get into that transition.
So Heiruspecs was like a going full-time concern for me until about 2006 or 7. And we had sort of hit that thing of like, okay, we signed a legitimately decent record deal with a decent advance. We signed with Razor and Tie, who has been, not like a leading force in music, but they got Dar Williams. They got, some names on there. And our record did relatively well on our terms. Not super great on their terms.
Okay.
But we were like, would you like to hear some more music from us. And they were like, why? We're not going to put it out. You're like, I was like, okay. And you hit that moment and you go, oh, the highs are high. We had done a tour opening for Cake and the Walkmen. We had gotten some tour support. We had started to actually have a couple cities in America where we would sell out, 400 people rooms and things. And you go, okay, this is great. And then you go, but it's not what it needs to be for the six of us to all own homes or be able to start families or do all those things. And you start to go, okay. And you can't write songs because you're nervous about money and you're nervous about responsibilities and things like that. So we pulled back. Then we thought about breaking up, but we had like a whole fall of tour dates. And our manager, Vicky Gilmer, who is a well-known person around town from that era and was the editor of Star Tribune and managed Lowe and managed Mason Jennings, she was like, don't cancel this fall because then you're going to be persona non grata. You're going to be the people that canceled. Just go through the fall. And we fell in love with each other. We were like, great. By the way, I remember you asked me about radio. I'm sorry to keep yapping so much about music. And it was at that moment after finishing that tour where we had so much fun because we had decided we weren't going to be serious anymore.
Okay.
So suddenly they're just like, oh, I love you guys. And so he said, let's just be a legacy band, still a creative band, but not try to get out on the road or anything like that.
Sure.
So, okay. So I finished college. While finishing college, I started working at a group home to, cover my living expenses and things like that. And I said, oh, how can I just get into more things that aren't exactly playing music but are connected? So I was still using my whole toolkit of connecting and being a self-promoter and a promoter for Heiruspecs. And then I realized, I kind of enjoy doing trivia and I enjoy running trivia, and I competed at a couple like bar trivia things. And it was in that mold that I got into doing trivia.
Okay.
And then I started going, maybe I'm just one of those. Maybe, do you remember Ian Rand's?
Sure.
Okay. I was like, maybe I'm Ian Rand's V2 or whatever. Like maybe I'm guy. I don't know why they hired him, but we did. And it's no knock on me or on Ian, but it's one of those things where like, he's here again. Okay. And I was like, maybe that'll be me. And in that end, when I was taught by a woman who, Kim Randall, who ran No Alternative Records, and I was an intern for Kim Randall. She was like, look in town whenever somebody gets a new job, send them an email and say, congratulations, welcome to town, or welcome to the new gig. If somebody, new AE editor at the Minnesota Press, the Minnesota Daily, new Star Tribune editor, new program director at the Current. These sort of like, the 15 coolest jobs in Minnesota. When somebody new gets those jobs, reach out to them and introduce yourself and go, hey, I'm not asking you for anything right now. I'm just, sort of priming the pump and making sure you can reach me if you need to, and vice versa. So when Jim McGuinn got the job as program director at the Current, I was like, hey, I just started a trivia company. You should have trivia on your morning show, and welcome to town. And it was a well-timed email because it was when Heiruspecs was on the cover of City Pages for one of our records. And he was like, I'm reading about you. Your band sounds awesome. This is cool. I'm not ready to add anything to the morning show yet. When I am, I'll reach out to you. So I do that every 6 weeks. Just, hey, how you doing? And finally got the bite. And so started to do monthly trivia on the Current. Started to do bi-weekly trivia on the Current. And then they're like, this is really good.
Okay.
Start to do trivia on the Current. And then at some point, they were like, Sean's kind of like radio charming, independent of him just doing trivia. So they started calling me into sub. And then I started subbing a lot. And then I think I started subbing so much that they felt somewhat obligated to have me do more than subbing. Where they were saying, we got to have some kind of thing for Sean. And that's kind of how I came in to doing music, to doing radio, was through trivia and through music.
Okay.
And sort of going, this person can cover a lot of bases. And I got really comfortable with it. And it's only been probably within the last 4 years where I've gone, this is not like a chapter in my journey as a musician, as an Ian Rand's wannabe, but rather like I'm going to be a radio person. If I stopped being a Jazz 88, which I have no intention of stopping, I would look for another radio gig. Like I like this work. I feel good at it. So.
Yeah. So you move from the Current to Jazz 88, and you're the program director?
I'm the music
director. All
Yes.
right. I don't understand the distinctions. So.
Imagine the joy of managing music compared to managing people, and that is the difference between a program director and a music director. I have to go, oh, I don't think we can play Archie Shepp today because there's not enough time. And program directors go, who can we have do a Celtic show?
Got it.
And so it's the music is
All right.
is my domain, and I'm the afternoon host as well.
Right.
So.
Now, did you have a big jazz background before you went there?
Yes.
I mean, I know you were on the hip hop side of
Yep.
things, but what was your jazz training that qualified you for music director?
I think there's a lot of times in the music world, if you're attempting to learn music,
Right.
you will be funneled towards jazz.
Right.
Because they go, oh, you don't play classical. Oh, there's a jazz band. Oh, this, oh, that. I had an appreciation for jazz because my father did and my brother did. But when I started trying to learn music, you kept on going like, okay, we're learning this Allman Brothers tune, but actually this sounds a lot like this Freddie Hubbard tune. Oh, okay, like they're doing some of the same stuff that Miles Davis is doing. Okay, who's that? How do we learn about those things? That brought me to when I got to Minnesota in 10th grade. At the same time I met Felix and started working with Heiruspecs, I started going to Walker West Music Academy on Saturdays for this jazz band, which was really well designed, and it's where Mint Condition, one of the greatest groups to ever come out of St. Paul, sort of got their start years earlier. In my second week of being in Minnesota as a student, I came in to a Latin class, and I was like, hey, I'm looking to try to connect with jazz musicians, as I was just talking to the cool kids in the class. And this guy, Tony Bell, may he rest in peace because he passed away, he was like, go play at Walker West on Saturdays and tell them you're replacing me because I don't want to do the gig anymore. So I walked in. That day I met Martin Devaney, Devon Gray, a bunch of the people I make a lot of music with.
Okay.
And it was a real book thing. And a real book is anybody who plays jazz is familiar. Pull out these charts. They're going to start counting them off. You're going to start playing them. They're going to tell you they're in different keys. You're going to have to be able to learn how to walk. You're going to have to learn how to read and all that. So that was jazz. Okay. And then I started listening. And then my bass teacher was into it. And then I did it in college. And I had studied with Phil Hay at the University of Minnesota doing his combos. And then anytime I toured, somebody in the band was vastly more into jazz than I was at the time. Peter Leggett, drummer for Heiruspecs, huge jazz enthusiast. He would throw that on all the time. When I was traveling with Dessa for a long time, Joey Van Phillips, our drummer, huge jazz fan, would throw that on. So I was osmosisizing it throughout.
That's very cool.
Yeah,
that's
throughout
very cool.
that journey.
So as the music director, do you have a vision for where you kind of want to take things? Is there? So I don't listen to it as much as I should. I'm sorry, but
I accept your apology.
Are there genre specific shows on your, just like, is there the Bop Show, and then how does it set up?
Yeah. So a lot of my responsibility is for the more general programming running from 6 to 7 p.m. on weekdays, where we have students doing jazz with class alongside a fantastic group of professionals like DJ Dime and Jedediah Jones. And then the morning show done by Peter Solomon and the afternoon show done by myself. We have a lot of beautiful specialty shows, not the Bop Show, but we have like the Brazilian Hour. We have blues programming featuring a lot of incredible DJs on Fridays, etc. And I connect with those people and I say, hey, what can I do to help you? What artists do you want to connect with? What albums do you want to get a hold of? But my bread and butter is the programming that you might just call jazz. And for that, I do have a vision. And some of that vision involves celebrating the whole world of jazz in a way that is really digestible and appreciable and something that you can appreciate. And that means that was the mission before I got there. I'm not really changing course, but I also thought radio is not always for the purists. Radio is often for people who go, I want an adventure this afternoon.
Right.
And I want those folks to hear things within every half hour to 45 minutes that they're going to really understand, oh, this, I already knew about this artist and I'm really glad to hear it. I want you to hear John Coltrane. I want you to hear Billie Holiday. I want you to hear Ella Fitzgerald. Because I don't want you to go, I like jazz. You turn on Jazz 88 and you spend 45 minutes lost in the wilderness, not knowing what you're hearing. And on top of that, I think one of the best experiences of being a music fan, and your program is a testament to this, but is to fall in love with something and then be able to go see it somewhere.
Right.
So I really prioritize those national groups that are traveling and getting to the Twin Cities, and I really prioritize the local groups that are playing on stages, so that when you turn on Jazz 88 and you hear Wayne Shorter and you go, I get that, and then you hear L.A. Buckner and you go, I can see him in a week and a half. He's playing somewhere. I want that thick experience.
That is great. Yeah. So what do you have coming up? What does Heiruspecs have coming up?
Heiruspecs is doing our second annual Summer Classic on August 17th with a really exciting group called Rebecca. That's a younger jazz group that I discovered through my work at Jazz 88. And then Greg Grease, one of the finest rappers to ever come out of the Twin Cities, former member of Astro Black / Zulu Zulu, and somebody who we've sort of shared community with for 15, 20 years. And then the Emily, a fantastic DJ who we've worked with a lot, sort of more just knowing her. We've known her since high school. She's part of Cutthroat DJs, and she's going to be spinning. And we're doing it at the James J. Hill House. We haven't done it there before, and I'm very excited about the whole thing.
That should be very cool. Yeah. It's very exciting. Well, thank you so much for coming here, Sean.
Well, it's a
really
pleasure to be here.
appreciate
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.